Pepper, I physically cannot drink it now. The minute I start drinking combination, it foams up in my mouth and just comes up. I cannot have carbonate.
So we had a patient in town. She had kind of the story that we've heard many times. She was kind of heavy, didn't have a lot of opportunities, had the surgery, did perfect, lost a bunch of weight, found somebody, fell in love, got married, adopted her husband's son, so she had a stepson and just doing great. And 3 years or so passed, and she forgot about everything that we had told her. So she began drinking soda pop. And she came in with a perforated ulcer here, and we rushed her to the operating room, put a stitch in it, and I went out to talk to the family, and they were like across the room from me, and as soon as they saw me, they came running at me like little kindergartners who are going to be tattletales. Dr. Rutledge, she's drinking Mountain Dew. And she's drinking 6 bottles. And so I said, oh, okay, well, I said, we need to kind of be supportive of her now, and then when she gets better, we need to work and try and encourage her to stay away from the soda pop. And her father, who was there, because this crusty old character, said, nah, let's get her now. So anyway, she was nice enough. She came back to clinic and sat in the row back here, and she said, you know, I just thought I was normal. I drank a few sodas. Initially, they didn't taste good. Then they started tasting better. And then they were convenient because I work in the police department as a dispatcher, and I can't get up to get away, and I can keep soda at my desk. And I drank one and drank another, and pretty soon I was drinking a lot of soda pop, and she had a perforated ulcer. Okay? Same thing with coffee. Okay? I don't want to tell you this. I like coffee. I hate going to Starbucks and ordering green tea. But coffee causes ulcers and gastritis in our patients. And so we have a patient here in town. She started to drink a little bit of coffee, went on to triple espressos, and got admitted with a big bleeding ulcer, and she stopped her coffee, and now she's better. So coffee, soda pop, cigarettes, those things are not good choices for your new gut. And I don't want to tell you those things. I personally, I would love to go out and have a cigarette and a cup of coffee and a Diet Coke with you right now. I say we blow off clinic because we talked enough. Let's go outside.
Dying. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go outside. Let's have a Diet Coke. Yeah. So, but I don't want to tell you they're bad for you. They're bad for you. My patients have my phone number. My patients call me when they're in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer or a perforated ulcer. I get calls from North Carolina. I get calls from Michigan. I get calls from Maine. Okay, and when I talk to them, first of all, I apologize. I say, this is my fault with the surgery. I feel terrible about it. I said, have you been following our advice? And they go, what advice is that? And I'm going, are you taking your Tums? No, I thought we were only supposed to take them for a couple weeks. Are you eating yogurt? No, I don't like the taste of yogurt. You're not drinking, are you? So no, just, you know, a little wine and beer and whiskey and bourbon and you're not smoking cigarettes, are you? Oh, you can't quit smoking cigarettes. And so I don't want to tell you those things. Those things plus an MGB, you're going to get an ulcer. And if you're in Maine or Arizona, when your ulcer perforates, you may get a big incision. You may get your gastric bypass taken apart. So my bias is the MGB has many good things, but it has bad things. Just like if you take a baby aspirin every day to protect you from a heart attack or stroke, you have a risk long-term that you're going to get an ulcer. It's about the same as having an MGB. A baby aspirin and an MGB have about the same risk of GI bleeding or an ulcer. Don't do it. Take the benefits of the MGB. Enjoy those things, and don't do those things that are going to put you in trouble. You can if you want to. I don't care. I feel sad for you. But if you want to smoke cigarettes, if you want to have a drink of alcohol, if you want to have soda pop, keep my number at hand, and you can be a teacher for one of my other patients. You can tell me a story that I'll tell on one of these videos. But those things, I don't want to keep you from alcohol. I don't want to keep you from going and having a triple skim milk latte or a carbon macchiato or with whips foamy sprinkles. from Starbucks, but those coffees are not good for your gut.
Even just with a little espresso in it, just one a day.
Can you take acetaminophen?
I just wanted to make sure, since I have my VSG, I've pretty much been taking an aspirin a day, and no one ever told me, I mean, the Mexican doctor never said don't take an aspirin, so you think I'm okay?
You mean right this moment?
Well, when you get in there, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I think
Is
you're
that-
okay. But people who take aspirin, there's studies from England and around the United States now, have a risk of getting an ulcer. And when I tell these kind of ominous stories about my patients, say, oh, you're going to get an ulcer. What I mean is 5% of people, that means 95% of people aren't.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people that are ignoring my advice and doing fine. So you don't need to wear your seatbelt. You don't need to buy health insurance.
Right.
Right.
You don't need to unload the gun before you pull the trigger and spin the thing. But personally, I would.
I have a question about emergencies.
Uh-huh.
And so what if we can't get a hold of you? Heaven forbid something happens to you. And what do we tell in our emergency, the health care? What happens
Usually
if
you
something
don't-
happens to you is what I want to know.
Usually there's not much to tell because you're just like a regular person in most cases. And like people have said, should I get one of those emergency alert bracelets?
Right.
Warning. I have had an MGB. Back off.
Don't,
I'm a former-
incision.
I'm a former fat person. Back away. And we feel like that's really totally unnecessary. The vast majority of things that are going to happen to you in the ER are all fine, and they're not going to make a big difference whether or not I'm called or not. You're always welcome to call. But we haven't seen in 5,000 plus patients where, if they'd only called me, I could have changed everything.
But could they, okay, let's say the ulcer you're talking, I don't want a big incision. If I have that, I want to fly to you and you go in the same little incision
We've
and
had that.
fix it.
We've had that where people, most of the time at little hospitals, the helicopter takes people away from the little hospital to the big hospital. So when I was in North Carolina, we had the first time they transferred somebody by helicopter back into the little hospital. We have a helicopter pad
That's good
at a
to
little
know.
hospital like this, but they actually flew them in here.
That's what I would want to do.
Yeah, but most of the time they won't do that.
Or could I drive in a car for 5
Not
hours?
if you're bleeding.
It depends.
Just bandage me up.
We had a guy.
Get me through to Vegas.
Yeah, we've had a guy. He was in the eastern part of the state. He was about 5 hours away, and so the ER doctor, a surgeon, called me. Said, "So and so is your patient. Looks like a perforated ulcer. He'd been drinking, and he's a chef and ran a kind of a meat packing butcher shop or something like that. I didn't get all the details. I've forgotten now." So he says, "Well, I think we need to operate." So yeah, perforated ulcer. Da, da. So he hangs up. Then he calls me back about 10 minutes later. He says that he wants you to do the surgery because I'm going to do an incision. I said, "Well, I don't care." He says, "Well, let me see what I can do." So he hung up. He said he's going to pay to have a helicopter transport, which is probably $15,000 to get a helicopter to fly from eastern part of North Carolina here. He wants you to do the surgery. So he flew in by helicopter, and we were out there, getting our first transfer in. I used to work at the University of North Carolina, where we got helicopters in from little hospitals all the time.
Right.
We go out there, and we get them, bring them in, go, okay, we're going. So I used to be a trauma surgeon, all this stuff. So here we're sitting there at this little tiny hospital, getting the helicopter coming in, and all the nurses are going, no, we send them out. Yeah, but anyways, so he came in, we laparoscopically put a stitch in, and he went home the next day. But that's expensive, and you don't want to do it. Personally, I would just avoid the coffee.
Right. If you're having tummy aches, then you might be part of the 5%.
Can you take acetaminophen?
No. Acetaminophen's bad for your liver.
I mix coffee once a week.
Well, you're allowed to do anything you want. I don't care. Once you paid me $17,000, I don't care. Go ahead, you could jump off a building as far as I'm concerned. But you're paying me for my expertise and my knowledge, because I'm pretty smart. Not about anything else, but about this. Not because I'm smart inherently, but because 5,000 people have my phone number. Okay? So I don't care if you drink coffee. Guess what? You're going to get an ulcer. And not for sure, but probably. And I can tell you, I've had other people that drank coffee, got an ulcer, and you know what they said to me? Boy, I wish I hadn't drank that coffee. So I'm passing that on to you. Like, do you have kids? Okay. Were you a kid?
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to your parents ever tell you something?
Man, all the time, then.
Did you listen to him?
Yeah, I do, but
Yeah.
not all the time.
In other words, my kids don't listen to what I tell them. If I tell them don't drive against traffic on the wrong lane, they go, Dad, what do you know?
Yeah.
And you can get away with it driving against traffic for a while. Just not a good idea.
Well, just
So-
like when someone tells us don't eat Twinkies and chocolate, you're going to get fat. Well, we didn't listen. I mean, you just don't listen. So there's
There are many,
consequences
and there are
for it,
many
I
good
guess.
things about the MGB. So you can have chocolate, you can have cheesecake, you can have pizza in moderation. There are many good things, but coffee, soda pop, cigarettes, alcohol, aspirin, Tylenol are off the list, unfortunately. And I don't want to say those things, but they put you at risk.
So if you get a headache, what do you
Tough.
recommend? Tough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, just no pain medications? No.
Well, right now, if you have a headache and you take a Tylenol, that may help somewhat, right? But it's really not a powerful pain medicine. It's a minor pain reliever. And the past year, the FDA convened an expert panel on Tylenol. Okay? And they asked for their advice. What should we do about this drug? And they came back with a report that was front page news, the USA Today. You can look it up. You can, as they say, Google it.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, what they said was that all Tylenol prescription drugs should be taken off the market because they're so deadly and people don't recognize it. They think, oh, this is safe. What they do is they kill your liver. So it's the #1 cause in the United States right now for liver failure and liver transplants is taking too much Tylenol without the knowledge of how dangerous it is. Now, could you take one Tylenol in the coming year? Am I saying that one Tylenol is the equivalent of putting a .45 caliber gun to your head and pulling the trigger? Like one Tylenol, no. But Tylenol is dangerous and bad for you, and it's a minor pain reliever, so it's only going to relieve minor pain anyways. So don't take Tylenol.
No ibuprofen either, right?
Ibuprofen is a minor pain reliever, and it causes ulcers in your stomach, and it's bad for your liver. So, no. Now, here's what I would think you should ask. Dr. Rutledge, you character you. You got 5,000 people, and you took away their Tylenol. You took away their aspirin. You took away their Motrin. You took away their Aleve, their Advil. How are those 5,000 people living their lives now without Advil and Aleve and things like that? And which life do they prefer? And what I have heard over and over again is, I'll take this life with no Tylenol, no aspirin, no Aleve, 1,000,000 times over this one, when I had access to every drug in the drugstore and the grocery store.
You couldn't pay me to take that stuff.
What about fibromyalgia? I mean, Lyrica and indomycin.
I'm not sure what the second drug is,
It's
but
an arthritic medicine.
I don't know it, so I can't help you because I don't know it. But Lyrica, as far as I know, is okay. But let's take a drug in general. Let's take drugs in general. And you said some drug. Name that drug again?
Which,
The mycin something? What's the name of it?
Indomycin?
Indomethacin.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Indomethacin, absolutely, unequivocally no. Gigantic perforated ulcers. It's one of the most powerful ulcer-causing drugs we got.
Get rid of that.
But let's suppose, ask me about another drug. We're going to make up a drug name called Drug X. You go see the doctor, and you got disease X. And the doctor says, you got to take drug X. Now, as I said, you can call me, but I don't know all the drugs in the world, right? There are zillions of them, and I don't prescribe them all the time. So what should you do? Well, one is you could just take the drug. Or you could, #1, ask your doctor, say, this is drug X, does it cause ulcers? Because I got a tendency. 2, does it bother your liver? 3, to the doctor, what are the other side effects of this drug? That's step 1. Step 2, see the pharmacist. You're picking up drug X, you say, hey, pharmacist, does this bother your stomach at all? Do you know any ulcers from this as far as you're aware? 2, does it bother my liver? Anything you know about that? 3, what are the big side effects of drug X? Then, step 3 for you, Google it. In other words, if you see We are the law offices of Sokolov, Sokolov, and Sokolov. If you've taken drug X, call us now. You may be entitled to a financial settlement.
Well, aren't they pulling that on the Reglan right now?
They are pulling on. That's why we're not giving a Reglan anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, not because it's a bad drug, but we're not giving the Reglan because they're suing people who have Reglan. Now you need to take it for a long time and elderly people to get the complication, but we're not using Reglan. We're pulling the Reglan because of the lawsuit. So that's a good way. Google it. If you see a bunch of lawsuits about drug X, you might have second thoughts. Now you're always willing to call me. You're always welcome to call me, but I don't know about every single drug.
right.
I happen to know about indomethacin though.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, great.
So, would you recommend for headaches?
Nothing. How about that for a blunt and unsympathetic answer? But let's ask it a different way. Ask me this way, Dr. Rutledge, you're going to withdraw my access to all these over-the-counter pain medicines. In your other 5,600 patients in whom you've done this, you've taken away, how do they feel about that? How do they report back their headaches and their life afterwards? And the answer, what I hear, is they love it. Their life is much better. They have fewer overall headaches and much less severity than when they had access to all those drugs in the world. So probably, although it's not a guarantee, your life and your headache life will be much better after this surgery.
Yeah, you don't get headaches as much.
That's what we hear over and over again. So here, this is my paid
Or you're not in
spokesmodel.
pain as much.
Yeah, yeah. So even though you have less pain medicine, overall people have less pain. That's what we hear.
Is Dramamine the same as that anti-nausea medicine?
Dramamine is a variation, I think. This is a little out of my field, so we could look it up here, we could Google it. I think it's a lot like Benadryl. So it's a mild anti-nausea medicine.
So I can take it.
I think so. Where did you get it?
Drugstore.
So maybe we should ask your pharmacist, your doctor, and Google it. Yeah.
You know what else is crazy too, as I sit here bundling up? I used to sweat profusely. Like I would go someplace, I would just have sweat back to here, my hair. I went to get a haircut one time and she had to blow out my hair so she could cut it because I was so sweaty. And I almost immediately, the first change I ever realized was literally the next day, not feeling my best, but just sitting there and looking at her going, there's no way something could happen that fast. And I'm not sweating here. And that whole week, I just didn't sweat.
Yeah,
It
and
just
you're in
happened.
Vegas.
It just happened, and then you're not as heavy, and you just don't sweat. And now I'm chilled all the time, actually. So that's quite interesting.
Before I have to leave, but I was wondering, do you know how you'll determine if you're going to do 4 or 5 on me, or or you just get in there and wing it?
Well, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's unfortunately, and one of the other bits of research, which I didn't go over this morning because it's not quite done, is we analyzed in this latest follow-up is how much people lose in relationship to how long the bypass is. And basically, every foot added onto the bypass is about another 15 pounds.
Wow.
On the other hand, though, there's people with 6 feet bypass who've only lost 50 pounds and people who've lost 200 pounds with a 6-foot bypass. So there's a lot of variation. So the problem is that I don't know what I'm doing.
So you can't go.
Should I restate that?
Yeah, I think so.
I wish I could. But the problem is that when God created heaven and earth, He didn't put any markers on the intestine. In other words, imagine you're with me at my side tomorrow, and we look in your intestine, you tell me where to cut. There's no marker. God, in my opinion, just a suggestion, little happy face.
Yeah, that would be good.
2 happy faces means 100 pounds.
Right.
3 happy faces is 150. Colors: orange, dark orange, red, purple, black. Don't go there. Something like white. Beware. But none of that's there. So I have no idea. And especially you've had a band and a sleeve, so I really have no idea what I'm doing.
See, that's comforting. No.
On the other hand, I do this every day,
Yeah, I know.
and I'm pretty good at guessing how much to bypass. And
Okay.
I earnestly wish and pray every day I could give you a better answer than that. Unfortunately, your gut, your intestine has no marker, and even if it has, look at each one of us here. Aren't we different? How can I tell
Right.
how much you need to bypass and she needs? On the other hand, I've done this thousands of times. I do it every week. I do it over and over again, and I've seen people, so I know roughly what to do.
So
But it's
is it
a
like an intuitive thing? Like
no. I can tell you right now that basically you're going to get 6 feet, probably.
Yeah.
He channels. He channels.
Okay.
Yes, I'm That's
I probably do about 6 feet.
well, and he wanted to do 6 on me. I wanted 8, and when I came out, he'd done 7, and I've lost about 165, 170
So if
pounds.
I'm 205 or 210, and I would like to get to 120, I'm 5'5", that's the healthy weight, right? 120, 125.
But this is all an academic discussion
No,
because
I know,
okay.
I know.
All right, go ahead. Keep going then.
It's fun to
Why
play it
wouldn't it
forward.
be 5 feet?
It could be 5 feet.
When I was on the boards, a lot of people around my weight that were like 225 and 230,
Right.
some of them on pain pills like me that had gotten off Shari Heist. She did 6 feet and she's lost too much.
Yes.
And so,
But she had 6 feet, and she has not had a sleeve and a
right.
band. The
right.
sleeve and the band, in my opinion,
Yes.
not that we have to do this.
Right.
The sleeve and the band means that your true weight as you sit there is
Yes.
like 250 or 260.
That's what, yeah.
That the band has actually changed your metabolism so you're different. Now, many of my band patients are knowledgeable and they say just what you're saying. Well, that seems like a lot, Dr. Rutledge, do less. And I have done, and you know what happens? They don't lose enough. And I have videos of them coming back a year later for a revision. They say, I wish I'd listened to Dr. Rutledge. So it's not a
I just
guarantee.
wanted to have that dialogue.
Absolutely, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. But here's the deal. In my experience, if you were not a band sleeve
Right.
pre-person, then at
210.
204, you're a good 5 feet kind of person. But those other two operations have messed with your metabolism.
Yes.
You're now not really a 200-pound person,
Gotcha.
in my
Okay.
opinion.
I get it. All
But
right.
that's unfortunately a guess. And you could say, well, I just want to go 3 feet because that's safer and I want to be more conservative, and I'll do that in a second. I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay,
And 6
so
feet
do
might
I-
be
do
too
I
much.
tell you in the morning?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You could tell me anytime because I'll remember till tomorrow.
Okay.
If I were her, I'd bet on you.
That's my advice. Here's the way I say it. Imagine that there's a golf match being played tomorrow. Golf is going to be played tomorrow. And this golf match is a little different than most golf matches because you're going to pick out a golfer and he's going to play for your life. And if that golfer wins, you live. If that golfer loses, you die. You got that in your mind now? Now in your mind, you and I go over and we meet your golfer. It's the best golfer in the world playing for you today. And do you think it's smart for you to start giving him advice on how to play?
No, I don't. But I just wanted to discuss this.
Absolutely.
I wanted
But
to-
my bias is
Yeah.
when it comes for him to play, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be telling him to use a 9-iron on this hole. I'd just
Right.
let him decide.
Exactly. And I agree 100%.
And it's not that he won't necessarily lose. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
I don't know what I should do.
Right.
For every single patient, I'm faced with that. It's the worst tragedy for me, and I give thanks that the vast majority of the time I do a great job.
Right.
And I really, I couldn't face it otherwise. But it's pretty scary. Every time I go in the operating room, I don't know if this 6-foot bypass is going to be too much or too little.
Right.
So it's a source of
Kind of nerve-wracking, huh?
well, it's a source of very great dissatisfaction on my part and my patient's part because as they sit here today, what you want me to do is to have a drawing of your silhouette of your body now and a dial here, and I'll say, here's a 26, 20, 16, 12, 8, 6. You want size 2? And okay, size 2, fine. I'll go in the operating room, and God in His infinite wisdom would have a little marker there with a smiley face going, here for a size 2. Don't have that.
On one of you online, the Yahoo groups, you talked about, somebody asked about micro mini and something.
Right. The micro mini.
What was she talking about?
The micro mini.